wanna scream and shout and let it all out and scream and shout and let it out.
Hi, my name is Bruno and I'm an Agile practitioner. I'd like to share with you a few thoughts about why Agile is hitting a glass ceiling and what can we do as practitioners to help Agile break through this glass ceiling. Indeed, most Agile successes, adoptions, transformations have occurred in the world of software development, and there are much fewer in other fields such as, let's say, marketing or HR or finance. So in other words, Agile so far tends to not live up to its full potential. It tends not to reach what we call organizational agility, meaning agility beyond a small scope in the organization such as IT or software development. It's a pity because as practitioners we know that Agile principles and values and even many practices can be transposed beyond software development. So what happened? In my opinion, it's a question of credibility. Actually, we can say that Agile has been a victim of its own success because it has been so successful in software development, in particular through Scrum or XP, which are common frameworks in Agile, that it is naturally now strongly associated exclusively almost with software development. And most people, managers, executives, when they hear about Agile, if they know about it, they will not naturally think that they're applicable beyond IT, beyond software development. The first thing we can do as practitioners to improve Agile adoption beyond software development is to improve communications. We have to understand that becoming Agile is not a goal in itself. What organizations are looking for are business benefits. And we have to be able to make the link between Agile and these business benefits, to have, let's say, a business case that supports Agile adoption. Too often I hear practitioners talking about, let's say, velocity, cycle time, iterations, sprints to people potentially interested in Agile. These non-practitioners can't make the link easily between these practices and this vocabulary with what they're looking for as business benefits. What they're looking for is typically profitability, return on investment, let's say faster time to market, or the ability to change faster within the market. So all these business benefits are attainable through Agile, and this is what we have to emphasize. We also have to work on expectations, because when I talk about Agile, when let's say people in management or executives talk to me about Agile, their perception is usually completely wrong. The number one reason why they might be interested in adopting Agile in the organization is, you know what? It's cost cutting. It's because through Agile we have less documentation, teams will become more efficient, so it will increase productivity, and therefore they can do the same with less. Not exactly what we're looking for, okay? A few words about Scrum too. Scrum has been tremendous to help Agile adoption, but now it has become kind of a liability in terms of communications, because it's so strongly associated with Agile that it has become, let's say, the face of Agile. And because of that, most people associate Agile almost exclusively with software development. So we also have a lot of work to do in communication to kind of dissociate a bit Agile and Scrum. Scrum is one framework that is used essentially in software development. Well, there is more to Agile than Scrum, and that's something we have to work on very seriously. The second point where I think we should really improve is to make Agile more actionable. Indeed, if you are an Agile practitioner, you know that Agile is not a process or a technique or a methodology. It's rather like a mindset, a set of values and principles, even a philosophy. Well, if like me you've been involved in promoting Agile within an organization or toward external customers, you know that convincing people with a mindset or philosophy is kind of hard. So I believe we should really make it much more actionable. It's made even more difficult by the fact that there are many different flavors of Agile. And I remember I talked with someone who told me, okay, last week I talked with an Agile practitioner that was focusing on lean, and week before it was Scrum, and last month was someone that was really into XP. So it's getting very difficult to communicate how these agile principles and values lead to the business benefits I was mentioning before. The people we're talking to, the people we need to convince, they have to perceive this path, they have to see this path from the values and principles to our business benefits, and that is achieved with actionable practices or frameworks. And I realize this might put me at odds with a number of practitioners because, for me, in my experience, practices come first and principles and values come second. Let me explain. Is by applying these practices and frameworks that people discover the power of values and principles, and not the other way around. Not to mention that in organizations, no one has time allocated for philosophizing or abstract discussions about something. At the end of the day, people have to do their job. And this is about applying something in their field, and not about thinking aloud about how they might come up with a framework later on. We need something to penetrate the organization quickly enough and have some small success, and then maybe we can put the spotlight on the broader view. But we definitely need something much more actionable than that. This is why, to conclude this point, I think that as professionals, we should come with actionable proposal to the table, some kind of framework that can be tailored or adapted in the future, but do not just come to the table with, okay, this is our business benefits, and by the way, how is this achieved? This is the Agile Manifesto and the Declaration of Interdependence. You know probably about that, because there is no clear connection between these two things. We need to set a path, and people have to perceive the transformation process and how we're going to transform these principles and values into the business benefits. This is make it actionable. The third point that can greatly help Agile adoption beyond software development is to make sure it integrates with the existing practices of the organization, and particularly the management practices. Indeed, an adoption or transformation is not a revolution. It has to start somewhere and expand from there. So we have to understand the scope of the initial adoption or transformation and interface with other functions, departments, stakeholders. Finance, for example, is a typical case. They might need some reports, some metrics. Same for human resources. We want to make sure that teams are rewarded rather than individuals. Same goes for different departments and functions. So all these are represented by stakeholders that have to be taken into account. It reminds me of an example, a situation actually, where some consultants were trying to transform an organization into Agile using mainly Scrum, and the only way to report, let's say, progress or to show where it stands was the Scrum board. So different stakeholders, let's say a VP in finance, would come and look at the little post-its here and there written by the different people in the team and try to understand what was going on. So they failed. They failed because they failed to connect to major stakeholders, and they lost credibility. They, I think, were very good in Agile. That was not the issue. They were not able to interface with other types of stakeholders beyond software development. And I think one of the major reasons for Agile adoption failures is not being able to integrate with the organization before expanding further. Because before changing something, you need to interface with it. Same goes for people and departments, different functions. So don't underestimate organizational complexity. Don't come with your Scrum book and open it page 1 and say, okay, I will transform that, and this is Scrum 101. Okay, what were you thinking? This is not going to work. And one other point that's very important, I think, is that Agile, like many other things, is a paradigm that requires transformation. So there is a whole body of knowledge regarding change management And Agile is not an exception. We can use that. Okay, it's not because it's Agile that suddenly it has never been done before, and we cannot rely on depend on any previous know-how. There are a lot of techniques and process methods for change management that will help succeed in agile transformation. So we have to leverage that, and by leveraging that, we also have to integrate with the organization and being more credible with these stakeholders. The fourth and last point I'd like to make is about the professionalism of Agile practitioners. It's more like a personal opinion, so it's based on my experience, and I believe that we might have a little problem of attitude with a small but significant minority of Agile practitioners. So I know it's a bold statement, so let me elaborate. I have met with quite a few Agile practitioners who seemed more intended to being right and proving others wrong than helping organizations to reach business benefits. And in my eyes, some really behave more like religious zealots than professionals. It's perfectly fine to be passionate, but we need to make sure we communicate appropriately this passion to others, and we educate people appropriately without creating conflictual situations. For example, I can't count how many times I've heard Agile practitioners say things like, "What? Your daily stand-ups are more than 15 minutes long. You're not Agile." Or, "What? Your iteration durations can change over the course of the project. It's absurd. Not Agile." Or yet, "Oh, you're a project manager. Well, we don't need project managers anymore, or else we're not Agile." Well, these statements, besides the content itself, obviously the message format is inappropriate. And incidentally, more and more when I meet with people in organizations who seem to have a negative prejudice toward Agile, invariably it's because in the past they have met with such practitioners. So it's definitely affecting the Agile practitioner community. And the bottom line is what we need to improve for that is very simple. We need to emphasize that all practitioners have to respect people and the way they work. We need to respect people in order to create trust. And we need to understand the rules by which they play so that we can later, eventually, bend them or even break them, which is a direct relationship with the two previous topics, how to communicate and how to integrate within the organization. This is a small summary of the 4 points we highlighted. So first, communication, then make it actionable. Third point, integrate with organizations as this, and finally, professionalism. I hope this short presentation was useful to you. I'll be happy to have your feedback, so feel free to comment, and I wish you good luck with your Agile projects.
Bring the action.
When you have this in the club, you gotta turn the shit up. You gotta turn the shit